Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shabtai here, host of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by FullPath.com. FullPath is automotive's leading customer data and experience platform, CDXP. FullPath enables dealers to turn their first-party data into lifelong customers by unifying siloed data sources and leveraging that data to create exceptional, hyper-personalized customer experiences. To learn more, visit FullPath.com. Today, we're welcoming Josh Detzel to the podcast. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for today's topic. It's something that we have not touched on yet on this podcast, but just to give everyone a brief intro here, Josh is the marketing director at C Harper Automotive Group. He's also a Google partner and a CXO member. He has years of automotive experience in both retail and on the vendor side with CDK, and was at also previous automotive groups before he landed at C Harper. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Super excited to have you. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, excited.
So tell us, before we get into the meat of today's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about marketing, and we're going to be talking about all the wonderful things that you've built at C Harper. How did you get into automotive? Tell us.
I joined automotive in 2012. I had a family friend that was in automotive when I graduated, talking about what I was going to do in my career choice, and he said, I don't have a single guy making under $70,000 selling cars. Why don't you come and try that for the summer? So I took my swing and never looked back. It's been just over 10 years in automotive now. Started as a BDC, handling phones, sales phone ups, handling leads. Back in the day when I started, I know that sounds a little corny, but 10 years ago it was 100% commission. So I got paid off of setting appointments for the sales team, and kind of quickly moved into helping out the special finance team. And this is pre Google My Business, whatever they called it back then, Google Places or Google Business Profile. And at that time, that was my first taste of digital marketing, setting up our Yelp account, Facebook, and our Google profile at the time to generate more leads. So the more leads that we generated, the more phone calls that we set appointments on, the more money I made. So that was kind of my first dipping the toe in the water into the automotive digital marketing space, and it kind of took off from there.
That's awesome. And now you've been at C Harper how long?
We are going on, this is going to be our 5th year coming up. Spent some time with a couple different groups in the Pittsburgh market, sales manager, finance manager, got recruited by CDK in the Chevrolet channel to do some automotive digital marketing consulting, mainly with website, and dealers started asking, how do I get more traffic? What is the best way to get more leads? And so I started kind of diving in outside of my role that I was in the capacity that GM and CDK wanted me to work in, and it just really helped me, dive in and figure out that there's a lot of dealers that are really being taken advantage of by vendor partners with non-transparent reporting, mediocre service at best, and really just kind of copy and paste marketing strategies. So that really got me back into the automotive group on the retail side, and really just started figuring out what works best, working with different partners, trying to find the best possible solutions to get the return on our investment.
Yeah, and on that topic, and thanks for sharing that. I think that's a very important point, and I think we're all sort of dealing with that now, and how can we make the most transparent reporting and metrics for dealers, right? That should be everyone's mission.
Right, absolutely.
Where is your focus now when it comes to just staying on top of the most innovative marketing for dealers? And what kind of conferences are you going to, or what do you, who are you listening to? What are you reading? I don't know. Just give us a little bit of insight into how you sort of stay on top of that. And then we'll move into what you've sort of built over there at C Harper.
Yeah, so you kind of hit on. I was fortunate enough to be recruited into and invited into the CXO group.
Yeah,
we have
that's awesome.
Awesome dealer operators, VPs of marketing, operations directors, executive managers from groups all over the country, right? We even have like LaFontaine and Jeff Weiler and Auto Nation and Group One. I mean, really, it's very humbling. I am by far the 20th or 30th smartest person in the room when we go to these 20 group meetings. It's an awesome experience. But we're going to, I go to MRC. I go to a lot of the Brian Pash conferences.
Yep.
We'll be going to NADA and Digital Dealer, and we're just looking for, what are the new up and coming software companies and vendor partners that aren't owned by these major big box retailers, right? These major big box vendors. The reason why I look at that is when you go to a big company that's been around forever. They are a conglomerate. They own the software. They own the DMS. They own your CRM. They own advertising. And usually, when you want something and you have an idea, it's we'll get that. That'll get on the roadmap. Will come out in Q5, right? Which means never. So one of the things that I like working with FullPath, right, is when I was in Austin at DMSC, or maybe it was MRC, DMSC. I sat down with Aaron and I sat down with Mike Colicchio and said, these are the things that I need out of FullPath, right? We need to be able to splice our data. We need to be able to segment our audiences. I need to be able to create, kind of toggle on and say, hey, these people came into my showroom but didn't buy, and they visited my Ford F-150 VDPs. And now let's turn that into how can we create audiences based off of these are customers that purchased a vehicle from us but shopped on our website, and or customers that have 10 payments left on an F-150 and 11 and 10 and 9, and kind of create drip campaigns so we can really serve the right message to the right customers. And that's one of the great things that I've gotten from the partnership with FullPath is they've listened and they take dealer feedback, and they're actually creating some of the things that we need in-house to be better marketers and more efficient.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. And I'll say that, us along with other partners that we've worked with, anyone who's committed to the innovation and success of dealers will be pumping out features and making sure that we're providing the innovation for the industry. So I'm happy that that's your experience.
Right. True partners, right?
Yeah. True partners. Exactly. Not just a vendor, or not just another vendor. But talking about innovation, let's talk about your vehicle acquisition strategy that you spearheaded at C Harper, which was, Josh and I were talking about this before we got on the podcast, and it's really amazing how you built an entire buying center basically for vehicle acquisition, but it's so much beyond that. Yeah. It's how did you build it from scratch? How did you test it? How did you scale it? So talk to us a little bit about that. Introduce the concept.
So I got the idea from our CXO group. It took me about 6 months to finally convince our leadership team here. By the way, we have a great leadership team. We have 12 guys on our board of directors, guys and girls on our directors team, and very young. Half of us are under the age of 40, so very forward thinking. We're very fortunate to have an awesome dealer principal who is very young and just wants to be different, right? So I just wanted to give that plug. But I came back with this idea, and it kind of took a little bit of time to get the buy-in, to get it off the ground. But back in October, I finally hired a lady to basically be a one-stop shop. We really wanted to figure out, we wanted to clean the house for the guests came over, right? We didn't want to launch a website. We didn't want to start buying KBB, ICO buying centers, any of that. We wanted to kind of figure out what does our internal operations look like first? How do we clean that up? How do we reduce friction in that process? It's almost like I think you had shared with me you're Jewish, correct? So you have Shabbat dinner, right? So
thank you for bringing this into the podcast.
You're
welcome. So impressed.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That our educational series on Judaism really influenced this conversation.
You're welcome.
I love it.
So before your Friday Shabbat dinner, do you clean up before the guests come over, or do you clean up while everybody's having a good time and you're eating, right?
Oh, we try our best before.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of what our thought process was how do we reduce friction in this process? So let's get our paperwork dialed in. Let's get the person trained and AFIP certified on all of the financing and titling piece, that aspect of it. And how do we work on our call tracking, or our talk tracks to make sure that we're overcoming objections, appraising the vehicles correctly in Viato. So there's a whole tech stack that we had to master first, right? And the internal operations. We were getting, I think we did, our first couple months, we were doing anywhere from 8 to 12 with one person, one-stop shop, right? So this lady called the leads, and we didn't even have leads at this point. We were basically just pulling customers off of Facebook Marketplace to just try and test this, right? We didn't invest any money into it other than the person. And we were doing 8 to 12, so one person calling these people off of Facebook Marketplace or getting their information, appraising the vehicles, setting the appointments, bringing the customers in, doing that final inspection, and then printing the paperwork and getting a check all within, from the time that they walk through the threshold of our dealership to the time they walk out, in and out in under 60 seconds. That was the blueprint. Then we said, okay, now let's start getting some more opportunities instead of just scrubbing Facebook Marketplace all day, because if anybody's ever done that, it's a grind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've launched Sell Your Car Pittsburgh, which is a website. So I went through and we bought up Sell Your Car Pittsburgh, Sell Your Truck Pittsburgh, Cash for My Cars in Pittsburgh. Got like 20 different URLs, redirected them all to sellyourcarpittsburgh.com. So we're getting anywhere between 60 to 100 leads per month through Sell Your Car Pittsburgh, and we realized pretty quickly that the ceiling for one person doing everything was about 12 to 15 cars, right?
That's
a lot of, correct, per month.
Mm-hmm.
So that ran for about 2 or 3 months, and then I said, okay, this is not scalable, right? How do we grow this department? And I need to get more efficient with what we're currently doing before I spend more money. So we had an old used car building, and we moved the girl who was handling all the leads, the one-stop shop for Sell Your Car Pittsburgh, down to the used car building, got her with somebody, because what my thought process was, if I'm setting appointments for somebody to come in and me appraise their vehicle, and I think that the range is a little off, I'm going to be more hesitant to set that appointment and bring them in because I don't want to be the bad guy, right? But if I'm setting them for you, well, now you're the bad guy, so I'm going to set as many appointments as possible, right? So we're just trying to give our appraiser more swings at the plate. So that started working. So now I have two people, right? One person that's calling the appointments, calling and setting appointments and printing the paperwork, and another person that's appraising the vehicles. Boom, first month, 18 cars, right? So
wow.
Just to fast forward a little bit, I have a little bit of data here because I'm a digital marketer at heart. First full month was July. We bought 26 cars. That was our best month ever. And then flipped 2 people into upgrades, right? We upgraded their vehicles. August.
That's amazing, by the way.
August we did. Thank you. Yeah, it scaled very quickly. And there's
not only are you hitting the pain point of inventory, but you're also bringing them in, and you're also turning them into long-term customers. I mean, it's an incredible strategy.
100%. And I'll tell you what our end goal is here in a second. I'll just give you a couple more data points. So,
please.
August, best month ever, 28 acquisitions, straight purchases off of private sellers, and 7 customers upgraded into other vehicles.
Wow. Wow.
So, and the grosses are incredible. So, from our first month, we did 26 cars, average gross, $2,146 average gross, and that's including wholesale loss, right? So there's some bangers in there that are $4,000 or $5,000 losses. So, but we never worry about the singles, individual deals. We're worried about the full picture. So if we take an L, we get a little egg on our face on a couple deals. It is what it is. We want to buy as many vehicles as we possibly can. So far, the transaction from last month.
It's also just a way to increase your customer database, meaning it's not just about 100%. That vehicle. It's you're creating all these new opportunities, which is it's genius, honestly.
100%. And I'll tell you that we have expanded that team. So now I brought in a girl who was our senior BDC, a lady, I should say, who was our senior BDC agent, who is she was the best person on the phones in our company, right? Over a decade years experience in BDC. Yeah. And now she's handling all the leads, and she's setting the appointments for the appraiser. And then the appraiser is purchasing the vehicles, overcoming objections. And then the lady that started this, is just printing paperwork. She's a full-time paperwork pusher, right? And cutting checks and collecting stips and everything, documents. Now I just hired another guy, and I stole him from a dealership that does this whole thing by himself. So he does like how we started it, right? So he's trained on all three pieces of this, and we're going to scale this. And our ultimate goal is this month we're hoping to get to 50 cars. We're well on our way there, and if I can get to 50 or 60, C Harper Jr., our dealer principal. We have a couple other locations that we're looking at, but our ultimate goal is by the end of 2024, we no longer buy cars off a smart auction or at the auction. We should be purchasing 150 to 200 cars, private seller acquisitions. My goal is, so if you look at Pittsburgh's here, we're right below it, about 20 miles, 30 minutes below. And our next location will be east of Pittsburgh. I want to put one north of Pittsburgh and west of Pittsburgh, and we're going to corner the market from a used car acquisition strategy.
1,000%.
Right now, we're just purchasing vehicles in our backyard, but we're going to go bigger, and I want to steal all of my competitors' private seller trades and private seller
and their potential customers as well.
100%. 100%, yeah. And we're going to feed them right into our locations and hopefully make this its own profit center, right? Its own LLC that will feed cars as to become our own auction and sell those cars to our dealerships at a pack and a little markup in them. But it's well on its way.
That it's incredibly impressive, and I think a lot of patience and strategy went into this, which is really what I want to take away from here. It's not easy necessarily to build this strategy from zero, but you did it right? You brought one person in and you slowly scaled it, and now you have a vision for what's going to make it successful, and you have KPIs and you have goals. I love hearing about this. I think it's an incredible process that you've built. And it sounds like you're well on your way to opening many other points for
definitely.
this. So
I'll tell you real quick, and we can move on to another topic, but if anybody is trying to or thinking about starting a vehicle acquisition center, I'll tell you a couple things. Number one, it's incredibly difficult. Okay, it is not something that happens overnight, and in the beginning you will lose money. It takes time and patience, like you said. But in the beginning, we were barely breaking even, and fast forward, we're still under a year in the making, and we are very, very profitable, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Wow. Well, if anyone wants to talk to Josh, I'm offering your services, so.
No worries.
The last thing I'll end here with is if you have any predictions for the end of 2023, 2024 when it comes to the car market, I'd love for you to share whether that's, adoption of EVs or marketing strategies coming out or, vehicle acquisition and inventory. I'd love to hear a little bit about that before we sign off here.
I'll give you two predictions.
Okay.
Number one, there's going to be, and we kind of hit on this in the beginning, there's going to be more disruptors in this industry. Dealers are tired of hearing from their vendors that, hey, it's on the roadmap, or, hey, yeah, it'll come out never, right? There are disruptors in the industry now, full path included, AI companies like Impel AI and Connect AI that we are using both. And from a vehicle acquisition perspective, and that's the last piece, and from a vehicle acquisition perspective that we didn't even talk about, is how we're using AI to do certain things like respond to customers. So I have my team only handling the leads up to 7 days, and AI handling up to 90, right? So they're just handling those low funnel leads, and AI is handling them long term. And if a customer engages, it's sending an alert to my team so they can re-engage with that customer and set those appointments. There's going to be more disruptors in this market that are listening to dealers that aren't just vendors, that are going to partner and allow them to integrate, right? There's a lot of stuff in our industry now that does not integrate together, and there's going to be more disruptors coming out that are going to help us from an AI perspective and automation and really help us grow and partner with us.
That's great. And I fully agree, obviously, just considering where I'm standing. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining Inside Auto Podcast. It's been so wonderful. I'm sure many of our listeners will be trying to figure out how to open up some kind of new profit center after hearing this, but appreciate your thoughts. And we can find you at Digital Dealer, at MRC, at NADA, correct?
Oh, yeah. I'll be in Palm Beach. I'll be at Digital Dealer in, October? And then November I'll be down in Palm Beach, Florida at MRC.
Awesome. So I unfortunately won't be able to make it to Digital Dealer, but I will see you at MRC. So it will be nice to meet you again in person. Thank you so much, Josh. And if you liked this episode, please tune in InsideAutoPodcast.com. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Deezer, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. Thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.